Typhoon Sanba hits many places in Guangdong, causing heavy rain and flooding. 89.12 million people were affected by the disaster, and $42 billion was lost. Was it a natural disaster or a man-made disaster? Pneumonia outbreaks occur in many places in China, and hospitals are struggling to find bed. Virus transformation. Children everywhere are crowding wards, and this round of infection may last for a year. A hospital in Nanjing performed 70 thyroid cancer operations in 7 days, nearly half of which were young people. Typhoon Sanba hits many places in Guangdong, causing heavy rain and flooding. On the morning of October 20th, Typhoon Sanba hit, causing heavy rain and flooding in Guangdong's Nanjing, Yangjiang, Maoming, and other areas. Many streets turned into waterways, and numerous vehicles were swept away by the water. In Yangjiang, the city streets were submerged, and a bus was seen driving through the flooded roads almost like a boat. Passengers on the bus were shocked by the large amount of water on the streets. On the 20th, Yangjiang issued a red rainstorm warning and urgently advised people not to go out unless necessary. Schools in the city were also closed. Apart from Yangjiang, Zanyang, Maoming, and Yunfu also experienced heavy rain, leading to severe flooding. As of 6:04 a.m. on the 20th, multiple areas, including Lianjiang, Huazhu, Gaozhou, Shanxi, Dianba, Yangchun, and Luoding had issued red rainstorm warnings, and many places had suspended classes. Local internet users expressed concern, with some saying Maoming is hit even harder. The streets in my hometown of Zhenzi Town are all submerged, and others reported, my town is flooding all the way to our homes. Cici River in Suxi is close to overflowing, and this much rain in early winter is really unusual. Guangxi was also affected by Typhoon Sanba. Videos showed that on the night of the 19th, Beihai in Guangxi experienced strong winds and heavy rain, causing flooding on the streets. Some people were seen struggling to ride electric bikes in the wind and rain. This year, China has faced several typhoon impacts, leading to widespread flooding. Beijing, Hebei, Tianjin, and other places experienced major floods. To protect major cities like Beijing and Yangjiang, authorities diverted floodwaters to several areas in Hebei, causing significant losses to local residents and sparking public discontent. 89.12 million people were affected by the disaster, and $42 billion was lost. Was it a natural disaster or a man-made disaster? China experienced frequent natural disasters in the first 3 quarters of 2022, causing severe impacts nationwide, according to the Ministry of Emergency Management. The total affected population reached 89 million, with direct economic losses over $42 billion. Analysts believe inadequate disaster warnings, ineffective relief efforts, and poor coordination by the Xi Jinping government exacerbated the calamities. The main disasters were floods, droughts, typhoons, hailstorms, and geological disasters. Nearly 500 people died or went missing. Over 2.7 million were evacuated. 118,000 houses collapsed, and 9.7 million hectares of crops were damaged. Disasters were heavier in northern and eastern China. Early 2022 saw droughts and snow avalanches. After summer began, heavy rains caused crop losses and flooding in multiple regions. Within 20 days after July 7, major disasters like Typhoon Duzuri and extraordinary flooding occurred, resulting in serious casualties and property damage. There were 35 heavy regional rainstorms. Under Typhoon Duzuri influence, extreme rainfall caused basin-scale flooding in multiple areas, destroying infrastructure and farmland. Flash floods and geological disasters also occurred, killing 271 people. Floods affected over 51 million people, killing 405, collapsing 112,000 houses and causing $32.8 billion in direct economic losses. The disasters have been linked to climate change and El Niño. However, Xi Jinping's inadequate warnings, ineffective relief, and poor coordination have also received criticism. When Duzuri devastated Beijing and Hebei, residents felt abandoned without central relief efforts. Zuotuo in Hebei experienced especially severe flooding, as it was forced to act as a flood barrier without adequate preparation. Over 20 died in Hebei, with 826 towns submerged. While natural disasters cannot always be prevented, the high casualties and losses reflect poor governance under Yu Jin-ting. Disaster warnings and relief efforts were inadequate and uncoordinated. Human factors exacerbated the calamities in some cases. Pneumonia outbreaks occur in many places in China, and hospitals are struggling to find beds. In recent days, China has seen outbreaks of what is being called mycoplasma pneumonia, especially among children. Hospitals are overwhelmed with patients showing white lung respiratory symptoms indicative of pneumonia and requiring oxygen support. There is a severe shortage of beds, with patients waiting days just to be admitted. Fever clinics at hospitals across China have been inundated with patients due to the pneumonia outbreaks. Henan Children's Hospital started offering nighttime clinics to help meet demand. However, patients still face long wait times of up to 4 hours just for basic tests and scans, with hundreds of yuan in fees. According to hospital staff, wards are crowded with many children being hospitalized for what is labeled mycoplasma pneumonia. However, some believe the term is just being used as a cover for COVID-19 infections. A teacher in mainland China said a colleague died suddenly after a 2-day cold, but the hospital labeled it just a cold without proof, implying they are hiding the real cause of death. He believes the authorities are not revealing the truth about the scale of the outbreaks. Some citizens relate the outbreaks to the country's forced vaccination drives. Those who refuse vaccines are barred from schools and jobs. Many have reported side effects like facial paralysis, weakened immunity, poor health, and menstrual changes after vaccination. A citizen said vaccine maker Sinopharm's leaders were arrested for bribing regulators to enter the market, revealing problems with the vaccines. He also noted how vaccination records have disappeared from health apps in an apparent attempt to destroy evidence. In summary, China appears to be experiencing another wave of COVID-19 outbreaks, especially affecting children. However, these are being labeled as pneumonia, potentially to conceal the true situation. Hospitals are overwhelmed with patients, but the government seems to be downplaying the scale of infections. There are also concerns over side effects of China's vaccines and lack of transparency around their approval. The severity suggests COVID is still not under control in China despite official narratives. More openness and global cooperation remain key to combating the pandemic. Virus transformation. Children everywhere are crowding wards, and this round of infection may last for a year. Since August, mycoplasma pneumonia has rapidly spread among children in multiple Chinese cities, overwhelming pediatric hospitals. Many infected children developed fevers and coughs before later testing positive for COVID-19. Facing public pressure, Chinese officials finally broke silence to address the situation. According to doctors, pediatric wards are overflowing, with 9 out of 10 cases being mycoplasma pneumonia infections. Compared to previous years, more children under 3 are being infected. Mycoplasma pneumonia is the most common childhood pneumonia in China for ages 5 and up. Younger children have weaker immunity and antibody protection, so the peak may not have arrived. Pediatric emergency rooms are filled with long lines and waiting times. Doctors are working overtime, but still cannot accommodate patients. At Tsinghua Hospital in Shanghai, the pediatric department has seen the highest number of mycoplasma cases in over 30 years, accounting for 90% of cases now. Experts note this wave started in July and continues rising. Whereas previously multiple pathogens were common, this year mycoplasma overwhelmingly dominates. The increased infections and more severe symptoms have been linked to immunity debt from COVID lockdowns. This year shows worse symptoms than before, with many drug-resistant severe pneumonia cases. Treatments like azithromycin are not working, requiring switches to off-label antibiotics like doxycycline. However, doctors caution self-medication at home without oversight. Delays in proper treatment can worsen conditions. With ineffective initial treatment, many parents are sharing strategies online for alternatives like doxycycline, but doctors warn such antibiotics have risks in children and require hospital approval. Testing for resistance takes time, so doctors often wait until first-line treatment fails before switching medications. Experts say macrolides are still first choice for pediatric mycoplasma pneumonia. If those fail, early resistance testing can help guide treatment changes. Severe cases may need added therapies like steroids, bronchoscopy, or immunoglobulin. Most recover, with few developing complications. Doctors anticipate infections peaking over the next months, likely continuing until next year's winter break. They advise vigilance for other respiratory viruses too, like influenza, COVID-19, adenovirus, and more. The immunity debt from COVID lockdowns may continue impacting China's infectious disease landscape. A hospital in Nanjing performed 70 thyroid cancer operations in 7 days, nearly half of which were young people. There appears to be an alarming rise in cancer cases among young people in China. In 1 week alone, a hospital in Nanjing performed 70 thyroid cancer surgeries, with nearly half the patients in their 20s and 30s, and the youngest being only 11. This has sparked discussion online. During October 7 to 13, the hospital conducted 70 thyroid cancer surgeries. Nearly 50% were patients in their 20s and 30s, which is highly abnormal. The head surgeon reported they now see thyroid cancer patients in their 20s weekly. Doctors are noticing small tumors already spreading extensively in young patients. One had multiple small thyroid nodules, 2 being malignant and less than 1 cm, but they had invaded the laryngeal nerve. Meticulous surgery was required to preserve nerve function and the voice. Online, some note long waits for cancer treatment, questioning the coincidental rise among young people. Some blame COVID vaccines, though without evidence, claiming cancers are from vaccination, despite expert consensus on vaccine safety. Beyond cancer, the health of Chinese youth is declining generally. One university's freshman exams revealed many with conditions like heart problems and myocarditis. The term fragile students refers to the prevalence of health issues in the young. One hospital received 1,700 students aged 18 to 25 in a month for various problems. A Weibo health blogger claimed more youth are undeniably getting cancer, saying the causes are known but cannot be disclosed. However, there is no evidence of a cancer epidemic among the young, nor suppressed data on causes. The blogger provided no substantiation. Regarding vaccines, reports indicate China's Sinopharm shot has 73 recorded side effects, making it arguably the most unsafe vaccine. However, experts note side effect reporting as a sign of transparency, not greater risk. Serious adverse events are exceptionally rare for all WHO-approved COVID vaccines. While concerning anecdotes exist, data does not clearly show higher cancer or other disease rates among Chinese youth. However, lack of transparency fuels doubts. More high-quality epidemiological research is needed on health trends. Claims of vaccine harm lack scientific support and should not detract from their proven benefits in reducing COVID mortality and morbidity.